Winter always felt quiet in his town. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, more like the kind that made everything feel paused, like the world was holding its breath and waiting for something to break the silence. This happened to a guy named Trevor when he was 19. He lived in a small rural area where the closest neighbor was nearly a mile away. Thick forests surrounded the house on all sides. There was only one narrow road leading in and out. During winter, that road usually vanished under layers of snow, sometimes for days at a time. Most nights were silent, too silent. One night, a heavy snowstorm rolled in without much warning. The sky turned gray before the sun even set. The wind grew louder by the hour. Snow slammed against the window so hard that it sounded like handfuls of sand being thrown at the glass. By midnight, the power went out. No lights, no heater, no phone signal. Trevor was alone. His parents had left earlier that day to visit family in a town over 20 miles away. They told him that if the storm got bad, he should stay inside no matter what. The road would be impossible to drive if it froze over. By 2 in the morning, the snow outside his bedroom window had climbed halfway up the grass. The world outside looked buried, frozen, silent. That was when he heard it. A crunch. Not the sound of wind, not the sound of ice shifting off the roof. Another crunch. Slow, deliberate. Crunch, pause, crunch. Footsteps. They were coming from outside. For a moment, he convinced himself it had to be an animal. A deer, a stray dog, something normal. But the sound was wrong. Too steady, too controlled. The footsteps moved. Not away from the house, around it. They were circling. At first, he thought maybe one of his parents had somehow made it back on foot. The idea made no sense, but fear does strange things to logic. The nearest town was over 20 miles away. No one could walk that distance in a storm like this. He grabbed a flashlight and went room to room, keeping the lights off so no one could see him inside. He checked every window. Nothing. Just blowing snow. Trees shaking in the darkness. Empty yard. The footsteps stopped. For a few seconds, everything was completely silent again. Then he heard the sound near the front door. Right outside it. He hesitated, standing in the cold hallway, barely breathing. Finally, he unlocked the door and opened just a few inches. A blast of freezing air rushed inside, and that was when he saw them. Fresh footprints in the snow. Bare footprints. No shoes, no boots, just clear human footprints pressed deep into the snow. They led from the tree line straight to his front porch. Then they curved. They formed a wide loop around the house. Perfect loops. Over and over again. There was no second set of prints beside them. No tracks from an animal. No trail leading away from the house. Just the same single line of bare footprints circling endlessly in the snow, like whoever made them had simply walked in loops and never left. Trevor closed and locked the door slowly. Then he backed away from it. He did not sleep at all that night. Every small sound made his heart jump. The wind scraping the siding, snow falling from the roof, the building shifting in the cold. Each time he thought he might hear footsteps again, but there were no more sounds. Only silence. When morning finally came, the storm had ended. The sky was pale and empty. The world outside looked calm, almost peaceful. The footprints were still there, perfectly preserved in the snow. With shaking hands, Trevor put on his boots and stepped outside. He followed the trail slowly. The footprints circled the house again and again. Then finally, they moved away from the porch and headed toward the trees. He followed them into the forest. They did not fade. They did not break. They stayed sharp and clear until they reached one large tree. And then they stopped. No turn, no struggle, no scattered marks. The footprints ended directly at the base of the tree, as if whatever made them had somehow gone straight upward into the branches. There were no marks on the bark, no broken snow beneath the limbs above. Nothing. Trevor stood there for a long time, staring at the empty base of the tree, listening to the wind brush through frozen branches. Then he turned around and went back to the house. He never spent another winter alone there again.
This one comes from a couple who were driving through the mountains in late December. They were heading to a cabin rental for a quiet holiday getaway. No parties, no crowds, just snow, trees, and silence. It was supposed to be peaceful, just the two of them and the road. For the last 40 miles, there had been no cell service at all. Their phone screens showed no bars, just a blank signal icon. The road grew narrower the deeper they went into the mountains. Tall trees pressed in on both sides. Their headlights were the only real source of light on the frozen asphalt. About an hour into the drive, that is when they noticed the white van behind them. No headlights, just a dull white shape floating in the darkness of the road. At first, they did not think much of it. Mountain roads were unpredictable, and another traveler was not unusual. But something about it felt off. The distance between them never really changed. Every time they slowed down for a curve, the van slowed down. Every time they sped up slightly on a straight stretch, the van matched their speed perfectly. Not passing, not falling back, just staying there. After nearly 30 minutes of this, the tension inside the car started to grow. The driver tried to shake it off with jokes. The passenger kept checking the side mirrors. The van stayed glued to them the entire time. Eventually, they saw a small, snowy turnout on the side of the road. Without speaking, they pulled into it and came to a stop. Their engine idled in the quiet. The van did not pass them. It slowed down. Then it stopped across the road from them. The engine was still running. No one got out. No doors opened. No lights turned on. It just sat there. The forest around them was completely silent. No wind, no movement. Just two vehicles idling in the cold. They waited. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 5. The longer it lasted, the heavier the air inside their car felt. The passenger whispered that they did not like this at all. The driver nodded, his hands tight on the steering wheel. Finally, they pulled back onto the road and started driving again. Immediately, the van followed them. But now it was closer. So much closer. This time they could see condensation on the van's windshield glowing faintly in their headlights. It looked like someone inside was breathing steadily against the glass. Neither of them spoke. Then the van's sliding side door opened. It opened while the vehicle was still moving. No one stepped out. The door just stayed open as it followed them down the mountain road. That was the moment fear fully set in. The driver pressed harder on the gas. The engine whined as the car picked up speed on the icy pavement. Curves came faster. The trees felt like they were closing in on both sides. The van stayed behind them, door still open. They rounded a sharp bend and saw something ahead, a narrow bridge. A single-lane ridge stretched across a frozen river far below. There were no rails on the sides, just a thin strip of road suspended over ice. As soon as their tires hit the other side, the driver slammed on the brakes and immediately turned off the headlights. The car jerked to a stop. Both of them held their breath. Silence. The van came around the corner a few seconds later. Its headlights stayed off. It reached the bridge. Then it crossed. The white shape rolled past them in the darkness, only a few feet away. The sliding door was still open. They saw no movement inside. No outline of a driver, no sign of anyone at all. Just an empty, rolling vehicle. The van disappeared into the darkness on the other side of the bridge. They waited for a long time after that. Neither of them dared to move. Finally, when they were sure it was gone, they turned the headlights back on and slowly continued their drive. They reached the cabin just before dawn, exhausted, shaken, too tired to even talk about what had happened. The warmth of the cabin made them feel safe again, at least for a little while. They slept through most of the morning. When they finally woke and stepped outside, the snow around the cabin looked untouched, clean, smooth, perfect. Except for one thing: fresh tire tracks. They started near the road. They did not pull into the driveway. They did not stop at the door. They circled the cabin. Once, then again, wide, careful loops around the entire building, not pulling in, not leaving, just circling. The tracks matched the size and spacing of the white van. They packed their things that same morning. They did not stay a second night.
This last story comes from a woman named Elise. At the time, she lived alone in a small apartment complex during one of the coldest winters her city had seen in decades. Snow covered the streets for weeks. The air felt sharp every time she stepped outside. The building she lived in was old, the kind where the walls were thin, the floors creaked, and every sound seemed to travel too easily from one unit to another. Late one night, around 1:30 in the morning, Elise was lying in bed, scrolling through her phone, trying to relax. The heat was on low. The room was quiet. Then she heard it. Knocking. Not on her door. From the wall behind her bed. 3 soft taps.
Cap, tap, tap. She froze and listened. At first, she told herself it had to be the pipes. Old buildings made strange noises in the cold. That explanation made sense. At least, it felt safer than the alternative. A few minutes passed. Then, it happened again. 3 taps. Same spot, same rhythm. She turned over in bed and pulled the blanket closer, pretending she had not heard it. Eventually, the sound stopped. Her heart slowly settled. Then her phone vibrated in her hand. It was a message from her upstairs neighbor. "Are you knocking on your ceiling?" Her stomach dropped instantly. She replied right away that she was not making any noise at all. A few seconds later, another message appeared. "I can hear it from my floor, too." Elise stared at the screen. That meant the sound was traveling upward through the building, not just through her wall. They both stayed silent. For a while, nothing happened. Elise started to think maybe it was over. Then the knocking started again. This time it was faster. 3 taps, short pause. 3 taps, short pause. Over and over. The sound was no longer soft. It felt deliberate, controlled, like something was answering a signal. Her chest felt tight. She sat up in bed and looked directly at the wall behind her pillow. The tapping continued, steady, unchanging. After several long seconds, she did something she would later regret. She knocked back. 3 taps. The sound stopped instantly. Total silence. 10 seconds passed. She counted every single second in her head. Then 3 taps answered back. From inside the wall. Not above, not beside. From inside. Elise dropped her hand and scrambled backward on the bed. Every part of her wanted to run, but her legs felt heavy. The tapping did not continue. It simply stopped, as if whatever had answered was now waiting. She did not sleep at all that night. She kept the lights on. Every shadow on the wall felt too dark. Every small sound made her flinch. At some point near sunrise, the quiet finally returned. The next morning, she contacted maintenance as soon as their office opened. She told them about the sounds and the tapping. At first, they assumed it was a heating issue, pipes knocking from pressure and temperature changes. Later that day, a worker arrived. He moved the furniture and carefully opened the section of wall behind her bed. There were no pipes behind it. No wiring, no insulation, just a hollow, vertical gap running between floors. And inside that gap were long scratch marks, thin lines carved into the wooden frame. They ran vertically, from the floor, all the way to the ceiling. The worker stood in silence for a moment before closing the wall back up. He did not offer an explanation. He simply said he would report it. Elise packed her things that week. She never slept in that room again. She still does not know what made the sound that night. But sometimes, in very quiet places, she swears she can still hear 3 soft taps, repeating in the same slow pattern.